In this second movie of Tweeners, we'll go ahead and take a look at some new tweeners that have been added in Anime Studio Pro 10. The bounce and elastic tweeners. The effects they produce could be done in earlier versions of anime. It's just that now with this tweener, it's automated and makes life kind of beautiful. Let's talk about that. I have created a scene now with 3 layers, an elastic layer, a bounce layer, and then the stationary. The stationary is going to be our green type of ground and wall type of item right here. I'll demonstrate animating this time a layer, because the layer will show you the paths that the object takes when you create the motion. Now, again, I need to bring up that I'm working on the Mac platform, and in the 10.0 release version of Anime Studio Pro, there is a major bug in the fact that when you select objects and shapes, there's supposed to be an icon so you can see layers and distinguish that from points and distinguish that from lines and all sorts of things like that. It's not working that way. If you're working with a PC, no problem. You'll see a cascade of options to choose the various lines so you can change the tweener functions between those. So I just need to bring that up so that those of you on the Mac platform are aware of it. Let's take a look at the bounce option first. I'm going to go ahead and advance to time frame 1. And let's choose our bounce layer right here. That highlights, we see the 4 selection points on that. The next thing I'll do is go ahead and take my layer position tool, and when I highlight layer, we'll notice that the plus sign for the layer is here in the middle of the stage, the drawing area. What I'd like to do before I do any type of animation is realign that to the object. The way I'll do that is come over here to the origin tool. I'll click on that and simply click in the middle of the box. Now this origin is going to be how things rotate, how the layer rotates. If I want to, I could put it down here so that the cube could rotate on this point. I'll do that right now just so we see it. But when I come back to the layer tool to animate that, we see now that our layer is confined to the box itself instead of being spread out over the layer center and the shape. With that done, let me go ahead and click on this one more time. We'll see an automatic keyframe set down over here. We have the generic document icon highlighted right there. We'll advance down to our time frame. Let's just go 2 seconds on frame 48. And I'm going to shift click and drag this down so it winds up right on the floor. The next thing we want to do is come back, choose that keyframe, right click, and it's just off the edge of the screen. Let me see if I can pull this up a little bit more. My default tweening method is smooth, so this has by default a smooth option. I'm going to go ahead and right click on that again and come down and choose bounce. We'll get a modal dialog box that pops up and it says how many bounces do you want, and each bounce, how big is it supposed to be? That's the scale. Right now it's at 0.5, so for the total distance traveled, each time it bounces, the bounce will be half as high as the one before it, and we've got 3 bounces, so we'll see that decay over 3 bounces and then it will resolve. I'll leave the defaults. I'm going to change my time frame right here from the default 240 frames down to like 72 so we can keep our animation nice and short. Now with this completed, I can go ahead and drag this back and we can see as I scrub the timeline and drag the timeline indicator what's going on. Super nice, easy motion that's done automatically for you. How is this different from the elastic motion? The elastic goes beyond the termination. Like on the bounce here, it stops at the ground. The elastic doesn't do that. It goes back and forth a little bit. So if I come up to the elastic layer, we're on time frame 1. I'm going to use the origin tool and set the origin to the center of the box. Come back to my layer tool. Again, I'm on time frame 1. Click on the box. We get a keyframe. Let me drag this one to something shorter like 24. This time I'll go ahead and drag the box. I'll hold down the shift key while I pull it sideways so we get a very specific straight path. I'll come back, highlight the keyframe, choose elastic. I have a default set of 4. You could make that as significant as you wanted to. Choose OK. Now when I scrub this, we'll see that it has a behavior similar to the bounce, but that first elastic kind of bounce, it goes well beyond where it's supposed to be and comes back. So now when we run the entire animation, we can see everything in action. This is also an excellent way to see things like the noise movement for a layer. That's one of the tweeners we had looked at in a different tweener movie. If I happen to, say, select this bounce layer, choose the keyframe down here, and shift to noisy, the modal dialog box pops up. And for the amplitude, I'll leave it the same. For the scale, I'm going to reduce this to, say, we'll leave it at 2, actually. It'll demonstrate a little bit better. Look at this motion path we have going on right here that we can see. When I go ahead and scrub the timeline now, we'll see our layer following that motion all the way down until it finally resolves at the end. So using the layer animation is a nice way to see exactly what's going on with the tweener motion. Again, if you have a motion graph and you're on a PC, you will see the motion lines that you can adjust for specific behavior if you'd like to. Can't do that on the Mac.